Evil Dead Burns comes out this week, and to celebrate the new installment in the iconic franchise, I'm going through all the movies. Well, almost all the movies. As long as they have Evil Dead in the title. That means no Army of Darkness. Sorry, guys. And of course, there's no better way to start Evil Dead Week here at Scary World than to cover the OG, 1981's The Evil Dead. Welcome to Scary World, where I walk you through the best, the worst, and the downright disturbing. I'm Arturo Padilla.
Hi.
Let's get into it. 5 friends head out to a remote cabin for the weekend, find an old book and a tape in the cellar, and unleash something evil in the woods.
It is entitled Naturan de Manto, roughly translated, Book of the Dead. The book is bound in human flesh and inked in human blood. It deals with demons, demon resurrection, and those forces which roam the forest and dark bowers of man's domain.
The first category is production. Does this movie look good? Is it well executed? This is where it all begins. A group of friends from Michigan and a freezing cabin in Tennessee. Director Sam Raimi was a man on a mission, showcasing his innovative thinking and style behind the camera. He shoots this thing like he's got everything to prove and nothing to lose. Let's start with the setting. The location alone does a lot of the heavy lifting before a single demon even shows up. The eerie backwoods, the isolation, that derelict cabin. You're already uneasy just looking at where these people decided to spend the weekend. And then Raimi drops in that POV demon cam, the camera becoming the thing in the woods, racing through the trees, coming for the cast. It's a smart choice. It fits right into that slasher vibe audiences knew at the time, especially coming off of the heels of Friday the 13th just a year before. One major difference is that Raimi manages to weaponize it because here, the killer isn't a man in a mask, it's the forest itself. Aside from the demon POV, the rest of the camera work is awesome. It never sits still. The shots are chaotic, restless, tumbling right along with the action, so you feel the panic instead of just watching it. The sound design might be the MVP of the whole production. On a budget this size, sound is where you can still buy dread for the low. The warped evil voices, the demonic screams, the low tones crawling underneath everything. It keeps the horror high even during the quiet stretches. Layer the creeping rolling fog through every exterior shot on top of that, and you've got a movie generating atmosphere out of thin air and no money. Sam Raimi's twisted vision became a masterclass in low-budget filmmaking. For production, The Evil Dead scores a 2 out of 2. I really enjoyed the execution of this low-budget production. Sam Raimi and his crew found a way to make everything interesting, to make every shot worthwhile, to squeeze everything out of the production crew, out of his actors, out of his equipment. Everything he did on this set matters, and it shows on the screen. The next category is story. Is it engaging? Does the story make sense? The script and the story were also written by Sam Raimi. The story is simple and direct. It's not a deep story, but it's a clean one, and it does exactly what it needs to do. I do enjoy this story, but it comes with some rough edges, especially the clunky dialogue.
I don't care what happens to her. She's your girlfriend, you take care of her.
It's not my favorite at all. One thing I do love about this script is the setup. It's very natural. The tape that's found in the cellar gets played out of curiosity. These aren't idiot kids. They find a recording and they're understandably drawn to it. That's far more human motivation than the modern versions where somebody unleashes hell out of pure ignorance or stupidity. It makes the sense of doom feel justified. From there, the trajectory is a straight line, and the pacing does not hesitate for a second. There's no fluff here, no long stretch where the movie stops to let you catch your breath. You know something is wrong early, you know it's getting worse by the minute, and you can't look away. All 3 acts are tight, hitting all the appropriate beats along the way. The film just keeps its foot down on the accelerator. All gas, no brakes. For story, The Evil Dead gets a 1 out of 2. As I said earlier, the dialogue is really where this movie loses a point for story. It feels clunky, it feels very outdated. Yes, it was made in 81, but even then, in 81, it feels off. It's not my favorite part of the script, but Raimi still finds a way to make everything work. From the characters, to their relationships, to how everything unfolds in Act 1, 2, and 3, This script is just well written and well executed. The next category is ensemble. Does the cast have chemistry? Are the performances good? Let's talk about who's actually carrying the movie here, and it might not be who you'd expect. The women are the engine of The Evil Dead. From the jump, they are the ones with the most common sense, immediately suspect of that tape that was pulled out of the basement. And once things go bad, the actresses are the standout performers. The transformations, the menace, the sheer physical commitment, they're doing the heavy lifting that sells the horror. And they prove yet again what this genre keeps proving over and over again. You can't make great horror without great women in it. Now, I know what the comments are going to say. What about Bruce Campbell? What about Ash? And here's the thing. Bruce Campbell comes into his own in the third act. That's where he does the bulk of his work, and that's where you start to see the cult icon that Ash Williams is going to become. But for the first 2/3 of this movie, he's doing his best to keep up with the women who are running circles around him. And that's not a knock on him, it's praise for his co-stars, and just the truth of where this particular film lives. For ensemble, The Evil Dead gets a 1 out of 2. As I said, I'm not forgetting about Bruce Campbell. I'm just highlighting what really works in this movie. The women are really what keeps this story moving forward. Without their performances, without their real commitment to what the story is supposed to show on screen, we wouldn't get the Evil Dead that we know and love. The next category is horror. Is it scary? Does it deliver the goods? This is the reason we're all here. The Evil Dead delivers the goods and then some. It starts small and patient, that porch swing banging against the cabin over and over again, and then just all of a sudden stopping. It's a perfect spooky tone setter before the real chaos arrives. It's the movie telling you something's out there long before it shows you, and boy does it show you. The vine sequence is still one of the most notorious scenes in horror history. Raimi himself has said he regrets it, but it is undeniably still effective and genuinely disturbing decades later. Speaking of effective and disturbing, the first Deadite transformation is flat out frightening, with that awesome sound design cranking up the terror dial to 11.
Why have you disturbed our sleep? Awakened us from our ancient slumber. You will die! Nightmare is before you.
The star of the show and what makes this movie memorable is the practical makeup. Yeah, it gets a little goofy at times, but that goofiness is the Deadite charm. Like the makeup, the gore is all practical too. The effects team absolutely outdid themselves on this production. This is where the budget constraints became an advantage. They had to be innovative. And that innovation is exactly what makes these moments so fun and so iconic. Aside from the practical goodness, I will never not love that stop motion melting sequence at the end. It's crude, it's grotesque, and it's absolutely glorious. For horror, The Evil Dead gets full marks, 2 out of 2. There is a lot to love and very little to hate when it comes to the horror department in this movie. Everything is just done so well and it stands the test of time. That is what is so special about this movie. The fact that you can watch it decades later and still feel something, feel scared, feel frightened by everything that's coming at you on the screen. And it's non-stop. Everything is just thrown at you minute by minute. Everything just gets elevated and worse for these characters, and the horror and the practical makeup really translates that on the screen. The last category is legacy. Does this movie leave a mark on the genre? Will people be talking about this 5 years from now? The Evil Dead proved you can make a genuine classic on a low budget. And when you take a step back and look at the whole thing, everything that makes this movie iconic came from limitations. The great physical performances from the actresses, the innovative practical effects and makeup that people are still studying today. None of it came from money. All of it came from a group of friends who refused to let a shoestring budget stop them from making something that would last. And it lasted. This little movie that could left a permanent mark on the genre. It launched Sam Raimi, it launched Bruce Campbell, and it kicked off a franchise that's still going, which is exactly why we're spending this whole week with it. For legacy, The Evil Dead gets another 2 out of 2. The Evil Dead became a cult hit for a reason. The low budget, the great practical effects, all the action involved, all the terror on the screen, the premise, the concept, the Necronomicon, everything is just so classic and so timeless that years and years after the production has finished, we're still talking about it as one of the best horror movies ever made. Now let's add it all up. For production, The Evil Dead got a 2. For story, it got a 1. For ensemble, it got another 1. For horror, it got a 2. And for legacy, it got a 2. Bringing the total score for The Evil Dead to an 8 out of 10. The Evil Dead isn't perfect, and it was never trying to be. The story's thin, and Ash is basically a passenger until the third act. But none of that is the point. This is a movie where every obstacle got turned into a weapon. No money became innovation, no experience became fearlessness, and a bunch of kids in a cabin became legends. The women carry it, the practical effects define it, and the sheer craft on display for the price still puts modern horror to shame. It's a rough, grimy, glorious classic that earned every bit of its legacy, and the perfect place to kick off Evil Dead Week. The movie is now playing on HBO Max. Go watch it. I'm Arturo Padilla, and remember, it's a scary world out there, but I am here to walk you through it. See you next time.